Shana, could you please do the roll call?
It's going to be me tonight.
Oh, it
again.
is? Okay, hi, Alice.
Yep, Leslie.
No, Leslie.
Leslie.
Great. Hi, Leslie.
Yes, thank you, Leslie.
No problem. No problem. So County of San Mateo.
Dave Pine.
County of San Mateo. Town of Atherton.
Rick DeGolia. I did see Carol Groom on.
Yeah, I'm having a little trouble getting in.
Oh, I see Carol. Okay, great. I see her. City of Belmont.
Julia Mates.
City of Brisbane.
Pauline Mackin.
City of Burlingame.
Donna Colson.
I hate this.
Town of Colma. City of Daly City.
It was further down the list. It was something you get into something and then you get into more of it.
Is that someone for Daly City? No. Okay. City of East Palo Alto. City of Foster City. City of Half Moon Bay.
Harvey Rohrbeck.
Town of Hillsborough.
Christine Krolik.
City of Los Banos.
Tom Faria.
City of Menlo Park.
Betsy Nash.
City of Millbrae.
Ann Schneider.
City of Pacifica.
Tiger Jazz Big Stick.
Excellent. Town of Portola Valley.
Jeff will be a little late, as will Carlos
Okay.
from East Palo Alto.
Okay. City of Redwood City.
Michael Smith.
City of San Bruno.
Marty Medina.
City of San Carlos. City of San Mateo.
Rick Bonilla.
City of South San Francisco.
Flora Nicholas.
Town of Woodside.
Jen Wall.
And Director Emeritus.
Radeep Gupta.
And Director Emeritus.
John Keener.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Leslie.
You're welcome.
If there is any public comment, general public comment, now is a good time to give it. You can either do so by indicating that in chat or by raising your hand under reactions at the bottom of your page. I don't currently see any.
There was one submitted with the agenda, I believe, is what I've been told.
And I think that went out to everybody, right? That was with the notice.
That's correct. And Rick, there is one hand up.
Oh, okay. I'm looking for that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, please go ahead. I don't see it, but I'm working on it.
Hi.
Jonah, yes.
Yeah. Hi. Good evening, Chair DeGolia and directors. Thank you for the opportunity to comment today. I'm Joanna Gardias, and I'm working for the Community Climate Action Group, Menlo Spark, and I'm also with the Campaign for Fossil-Free Buildings in Silicon Valley. I'm commenting today to share with you all the good news that the Fossil Free Buildings campaign has successfully launched our Electric Homes Ambassador program to connect those who have already electrified part or all of their homes with those looking to do so. So we already have a network of over 30 ambassadors and also more than 10 households that have used the program to try to get guidance from ambassadors on how to electrify their home. We believe that this type of neighbor-to-neighbor support is very crucial in helping people to make the switch to electric appliances and ultimately to make substantial progress in reducing our fossil fuel use and carbon pollution to meet our climate goals. We would be really pleased if the PCE joined us in this effort. Over the past few years, PCE's programs have made substantial progress supporting a switch from gas use to all electric homes. We're really appreciative of your leadership on building electrification, including technical support, contractor trainings, rebates for heat pump water heaters, and especially the new low-income turnkey electrification program. We hope to partner with you all in a regional effort to phase out fossil fuel use, and we would like to ask if you could help us promote and support the Electric Home Ambassador Program. We'd be appreciative if the PCE could include this program in their newsletter and list it on their website, and if member cities could participate as well. And we would, of course, be happy to incorporate your feedback on the program. It's free and accessible on our website at fossilfreebuildings.org, where you can also email us to get in touch for more information. Thank you for allowing me to comment today.
No problem. Thank you, Jonah. Is there any other public comment? I don't see any hand up and there's no chat, so let's move on. Can I get a motion to set the agenda and to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Yes?
I would like to remove on the consent agenda item number 11 for discussion. I think there's an error in it.
Okay, we can put item number 11 into discussion, or if you want to comment on it, if it's an easy thing to correct, it could be corrected right now.
Okay, I'd be happy to comment on it. The staff report indicates a ceiling up to $225,600. And on the agreement that follows the report, it indicates $225,000 even. There's a $600 discrepancy in the paperwork.
Okay. I'm not sure who might respond to that. Is that maybe that's an issue staff wants to look at, and then we'll take it up when we move through the agenda.
I think it was as simple as a typo where someone has put a 6 where the 0 should have been there, and it just got copied through, except not in every single place.
Okay.
Director DeGolia will address that as part of the staff report.
Okay, great. Thank you, Raphael. Okay, so we'll take up item 11 in the course of the regular agenda items. I have a motion from Rick Bonilla to approve the consent agenda after item 11 is removed, and I got a second, but I didn't see who that was from. In the absence of knowing, can I get a second?
I'll second Dave Pine.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Could, Leslie, could we do a roll call on that, please?
Yes. County of San Mateo.
Yes.
County of San Mateo. Okay, I'll come back to Carol. Town of Atherton.
Yes.
City of Belmont.
Yes.
City of Brisbane.
Yes.
City of Burlingame.
Yes.
Town of Colma. City of Daly City. City of East Palo Alto. City of Foster City. City of Half Moon Bay.
Yes.
Town of Hillsborough.
Yes.
City of Los Banos.
Yes.
City of Menlo Park.
Yes.
City of Millbrae.
Yes.
City of Pacifica,
Yes.
Town of Portola Valley, City of Redwood City,
Yes.
City of San Bruno,
Yes.
City of San Carlos, City of San Mateo,
Yes.
City of South San Francisco,
Yes.
Town of Woodside.
Yes.
And I'm going to come back to County of San Mateo.
Get into this meeting somehow. I just can't.
Okay, I can hear you now, Carol.
Oh, okay. I have no
Okay.
video. Okay.
Okay. I think we're good.
Okay, that item passed, and
Yes.
we will move on. I don't have a chair report tonight, so the next item on the agenda is the CEO report.
Thank you. For that one item, I wonder if we can mute those participants who are not speaking. For item 11, it looks like the problem is there was a typo in the title of the resolution where it said 225,000. It should have said 225,600. Otherwise, that's the one place where there's an inconsistency. So anyway, however you want to take that up. So the next slide, please. So this is what I'll be quickly going over tonight. Some thank yous, staffing updates, open positions, change in our video programs, regulatory and legislative update, and some upcoming meetings. So next slide, please. I wanted to say a big thank you to Shayna, Leslie, Andy, and Kim, who are doing a team effort here to cover the board clerk duties during this interim period. They're posting the agenda materials, gathering those all up from staff, taking the minutes, taking the roll call votes, running the slides, and you're having a breakout session tonight for the closed session. They're managing that. So anyway, thank you so much to the four of you for this good collaborative effort. Next slide, please. But next month, things will change. So on the staffing side, we have 2 new staff members that joined us in June. First is Jenica Uribe, who started on the 1st of June as our community outreach specialist in Los Banos. Second is Sally Chen, who started on Monday last Monday as our energy contracts manager. And we have hired a new board clerk / executive assistant to the CEO office manager, and that is Nellie Wagberg. She will be starting on July 12th. So she will be here for the to run the meeting on July 24th. And in fact, Nellie is watching the meeting tonight, so she sees how we do things. So we're excited to have that position filled. Next slide, please. So as far as our open positions go, the community outreach specialist for San Mateo County, we are narrowing that down to the finalists and should be making a decision on that position very soon. And we will soon be posting a position for a buildings program manager. So keep an eye peeled for that. Next slide, please. So we are moving to Zoom. So you all know we've been using Ring Central, which is built on a Zoom platform. Ring Central is changing their platform, and so we're going to go straight to Zoom. It will be slightly less expensive for us. So tonight's meeting will be the last one on Ring Central. So next meeting, please make sure you check the announcement and click on the Zoom link. And hopefully that will be easier for everyone as well. We'll let you know. We'll remind you a few times too. Next slide, please. On the regulatory side, I just wanted to point out one thing. Yesterday, we, along with Cal CCA and 4 other CCAs, submitted an application for rehearing of the PUC decision that adopted the phase 2 decision and rejected a lot of elements of the Working Group 3 proposal regarding the PCIA. So this was, it took the PUC like over a year to issue this decision, which was what prompted us to move forward with SB 612, the bill that we've been working on and that we've been communicating with you a lot. The PUC did make this decision on May 20th. It was unsatisfactory. And so we are forging ahead with SB 612, but we are also filing this application for rehearing. And specifically, the decision failed to provide unbundled customers with RA and GHG free resources that we are paying for in the PCIA. It ignored the collaborative work product in this Working Group 3 proposal, which the PUC directed was done. And because we were part of that collaborative work effort, we were unable to put forth other arguments in this proceeding as a result of being in this consensus working group. So we will see how this goes, but we wanted to let you know about this. We'll send you a copy in the newsletter tomorrow of the actual application for rehearing that we submitted. Next slide, please. So our big focus is on SB 612, which is the Cal CCA bill on the PCIA working group. Since last time, it passed the Senate Energy Committee, it passed the Senate Appropriations Committee, it passed the Senate floor. It is now on the Assembly side of the legislature in California, which is why we've been reaching out to you to send in letters to the Assembly Committee on Utilities and Energy. It will be heard in that committee on June 30th. And thank you to all the cities that did submit letters: Portola Valley, Pacifica, San Mateo, San Carlos, Millbrae, San Bruno, Colma, Burlingame, Atherton, and Belmont. There's still time. If you haven't gotten your letter in, we can still get it in. The deadline was at noon today, but we understand that more letters coming in will still be seen. And we are actually meeting, we PCE are meeting with the Assembly Committee consultant tomorrow, Laura Scheibert, who used to work for Jerry Hill. So she's agreed to have a meeting with us so we can talk to her specifically about how this bill is helpful to PCE. Other bills that are moving along, SB 68, which is Senator Becker's bill on removing barriers to electrification, has also been moving through the Senate and is now in the Assembly side and will also be heard at that Assembly Committee hearing on June 30th. And I will also be providing testimony during that committee hearing, as I did when it was on the Senate side of the legislature. AB 843, which is the biomat bill, which allows CCAs to, again, access resources that right now are only being accessed by IOUs, is moving forward. And then AB 1139, which was a controversial net metering bill, failed. So we don't have to worry about that bill anymore. And then just to, next slide, please. Just to update you on upcoming meetings, we are going to cancel the July Executive Committee meeting. The Citizens Advisory Committee will be on July 8th using Zoom. The Board of Directors meeting will be on July 22nd using Zoom. And please hold the date for our board retreat. That will be on Saturday, September 25th. We are planning to hold that in person. Yay, we get to see everyone in a location other than our offices where there'll be plenty of space and windows to open and things like that. But we will also make sure that those of you who are not able to attend in person will be able to participate. So that's all that I have at this point, and happy to answer any questions that anyone has.
Okay, does anyone have a question for Jan? I don't see a hand up, so I will assume that there's no questions at this time.
Okay, great, thank you.
Oh, Rick, sorry, I can't find how to put the hand up. I just wanted to know, Jan, what hours are you looking at for the board retreat on September 25th, please?
Our tradition has been to have it in the morning, like from 8 till noon or so. So we'll get started in the morning. We'll have lots of treats there to and caffeine, sugar and caffeine to keep you wired. And then we will end before lunch.
Great, thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
Through the chair,
Yes?
this is Anne from Millbrae. That is our pollution prevention week, and that is typically the day that we do our cleanup, which usually means all council members are also there. Don't worry about it this year, but in the future, perhaps not on a big environmental weekend.
Okay, we'll take that into account in the future when we set the date. We typically have it on the 4th Saturday. We usually have our board meeting on the 4th Thursday, so we move it to the Saturday of that same week. We'll look
Okay.
at that in the future.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the Citizens Advisory Committee report.
Chair DeGolia?
Yes.
I don't know if you want to address item 11 now. You can certainly do it at any point of the agenda as you like, but if you did want to address it now, and if the board member who raised the issue can confirm that it's just that $225,000 in the title of the resolution, we can take a motion simply to approve the matter with that minor correction whenever the board is so inclined.
Sure. No, I just as soon put it behind us. Recognition of that typo and correction of it, does that address your concern, Colleen?
Within the document itself, it showed that there was a ceiling on the revised amount not to exceed 99,200, and then to increase the contract by 125,800. That equals $225,000 even. I don't know where we got the $600. So I don't know which was intended, but that's what those total up to. And the contractual agreement at the very end says 225,000. So somebody needs to decide whether it's an even 225 or whether it's 225,600. But the two extensions total 225 even.
So the contract, I'm trying to see where you're looking.
If you look at page 2.
So the contract itself is on page 55 of 95. And that indicates that the contract is being amended to 225,600. But you know what? Ultimately, I think it may be academic, since this is just a not to exceed, and we're talking about $600. I think that as long as the motion reflects that staff is authorized to expend no more than 225,600, and the documents are corrected to reflect the right amount, if that's the motion, I think that'll address the legitimate concerns that you have.
That would work.
I make that motion.
Okay, that's a motion by Rick Benia and a second by, do you want to second that, Colleen?
I'll second that. Thank you.
Okay, great. Leslie, could we do a roll call on item 11, please?
Yes. County of San Mateo.
Yes.
County of San Mateo. Come back. Town of Atherton.
Yes.
City of Belmont.
Yes.
City of Brisbane.
Yes.
City of Burlingame.
Yes.
Town of Colma. City of Daly City. City of East Palo Alto. City of Foster City. City of Half Moon Bay.
Yes.
Town of Hillsborough.
Yes.
City of Los Banos.
Yes.
City of Menlo Park,
Yes.
City of Millbrae, City of Pacifica,
Yes.
Millbrae is yes. My mute button is sticky. Sorry.
okay, no problem. Town of Portola Valley, City of Redwood City,
Yes.
City of San Bruno,
Yes.
City of San Carlos, City of San Mateo,
Yes.
City of South San Francisco,
Yes.
Town of Woodside.
Yes.
And I'll go right back up. County of San Mateo. Carol
Yes.
on?
Yeah.
Excellent. You vote yes?
Yes, I do.
Perfect. It passes.
Okay, thank you, and thank you for the correction, Colleen. The next item on the agenda is the Citizens Advisory Committee report. Desiree, are you going to give that?
Yes, I'll give that. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, so our committee met at our normally scheduled time 2 weeks ago. We had a swearing in of the new members, the ones that were approved by all of you at your last meeting, and went through Brown Act training with David. And we spent the majority of the meeting then on a workforce development panel, which is something that the committee has been looking forward to for a while. And this was put together by two committee members, Stephen Booker and Joe Fullerton, also with help from one of the board members, Rick Bonilla. So we had quite a nice panel where we had Glenn Arvin from the National Joint Apprenticeship and Training Center, gave us an overview of training programs, and also Kifa Khalil, who was the IBEW National Apprentice of the Year, who is a local female apprentice. And then we also had two members from the Carpenters Union, Samuel Munoz and Clay Walton. And then the panel was rounded out with Joe Fullerton covering some of the work up at the community college related to the trades and also sustainability programs and certificates. For example, the Green Building Certificate program that's available. I just wanted to mention that, and I think it was all recorded and probably will be up on the website soon if any of you are interested in taking a look at that. And that's all I have for my report. Are there any questions?
Okay, if anyone has a question, if you just raise your hand, we'll know it. I don't see anyone with a hand raised at this point. And is there any public comment on this matter? If there is, either you can raise your hand through reactions at the bottom of the page, or you can indicate that you have a comment through the chat. And I don't see any public comments.
I now see Rick Bonilla has a hand up.
Okay, Rick, please.
Thank you. I just want to say that the presentation that was made by the representatives of the IBEW, the Carpenters, and Joe Fullerton at the CAC meeting were very well done and very well received. I thought there were good questions, and it was something that can be built on. So it created a lot of awareness there. So I thank everybody for the opportunity to have that presentation made there at the CAC. Thank you all.
Great. Okay, I don't see any other hands, so we will move on. The next item on the agenda is to approve the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget.
Yes, thank you. Let me go through first the schedule that we've gone through. So on May 10th, we reviewed the initial draft with the Audit and Finance Committee and the Executive Committee in separate meetings. A month ago at this board meeting, we reviewed that same draft with the Board of Directors. On June 14th, so 10 days ago, we reviewed a revised and our proposed draft with the Audit and Finance Committee, and that committee passed a resolution to recommend approval to the Board of Directors this evening. And tonight we're asking for approval from this board. The key assumptions in the proposed budget, I went through these last time, but let me just summarize them. First of all, from the initial budget, there's been very few changes, some couple of minor changes. We've updated to the more current year-to-date actuals that we had through, we had an extra month of actual information for our current year. And we made some minor updates to energy price forecasts for the next 5 years. Our assumptions are for PG&E generation rates, and as you know, our revenues are tied to, and rates we charge customers are tied to PG&E's generation rates. We have assumed an October 1 increase in PG&E from 4%, and then a January 1 increase of 1%. We believe these are reasonably conservative. And as I've mentioned in prior meetings, these rates and forecasts are all over the map and jump around on a regular basis. Most recently, over the last week, we saw a forecast that indicated that the October 1 rate wouldn't happen. And that on January 1, rates may increase by as much as 9 to 11%, which would be good news, but that's not what we built into the budget. And I suspect that those forecasts will change multiple times between now and the time that they're implemented. The PCIA, we have assumed, at least as dire and bad as it's been over the last couple of years, and has a significant negative impact on our budget this year. We've assumed a slight decrease of 2% on January 1, 2022. I'm giving those rates because those are in the middle of our fiscal year budget. And again, similarly to the PG&E rate forecast, we saw a forecast come out a few days ago that indicated that the PCIA may drop as much as 30 to 40% on January 1, 2022, which would be a very significant positive change to our financial picture. It's very early. A lot of people are questioning what the rationale is. We haven't built that in, so what we've built in, we believe, is as at least significant, at least reasonably conservative budget, and don't believe there's a lot of downside. And at least based upon recent information, there are two major areas of upside. But like the PG&E generation rates, I wouldn't be surprised if those change dramatically between now and the time that January 1 rolls around. We have, for our load increased, assumed an increase of 4.3% over our current year forecast, which ends at the end of June in 6 days. And that includes Los Banos enrollment for a 3-month period in the last part of the coming fiscal year. And we've assumed energy prices based upon outside forecasts will increase by 11% over this year. Prices have been fairly low except for some spikes in the summer, last year's summer, and the smoke and fire time periods. But in general, especially with the economic downturn, prices have been a lot lower, and they appear to be increasing and are likely to be higher in the coming year. So with that, that leads us to a summary of our budget. Let me walk you through these columns. So the left two columns are the current year forecast and budget. So we had a approved budget, and highlighted in yellow was our budgeted and change in net position of $8.5 million loss. Our current forecast for the current year is 4.8 million. Excuse me, we haven't seen the results of May yet, which should come any moment, and then the results of June, which we won't see for a few more weeks. But that's our best forecast, so that we are positive relative to budget last year. In the FY 21-22 proposed budget, we are looking at predicting revenues of $222 million, which is about $10 million less than the current year. That reflects largely the significant increase in the PCIA and the negative impact it has on our revenues. We are projecting total operating expenses of 241 million, which is a few $1,000,000 higher than the prior year, the current year forecast. Similar to last year, what we're asking the board to approve is the actual total operating expenses. And the reason we do that is so that that's the number that we're held responsible for. And if we go above that, then we need to come back, one, explain it to the board, but also to get a board approval to exceed that expense level. However, the result of that, revenues and costs, results in a expected and our proposed budget change in that position of a loss of $18.7 million. And that would leave us with a projected days cash on hand of 250 days. As you probably remember, our current policy calls for us to be at 180 days. So even with the loss of $18 million, if everything played out exactly as we've predicted here or budgeted, we still would be well above that policy level of 180 days at the end of the following year. I will pause here for a moment to see if there are any questions. Okay.
There's a question. I have a question from Ann Schneider and a question from Mark Roost. Ann?
Thank you, Chair. Mark was ahead of me if he wants to go.
I'll take the board first. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Staff, City Manager Tom Williams and I were going over the budget, and we have been in discussion for a public power purchase agreement with PCE. We couldn't tell if this budget allows for that or gets rid of that program that's still in a fledgling state.
This budget assumes all of those programs stay and continue into the next few years and foreseeable future. If things get worse than this, and as I said, we hope that this is a conservative budget, and we'll show you the coming few years. But if it got worse than that, then we would be coming back to the board to adjust or have a discussion about programs. But at this point, that program and others are continuing on.
Excellent. Thank you.
Raphael, did you want to add anything else to that?
No, that's accurate.
Okay, great.
And I'm sorry, that would also include the battery storage that we've been talking about, and that the building, in order to achieve net zero, we're hoping to install. Just we're under construction right now, so this is real to us right now.
So the municipal solar and storage program is ongoing, yes.
Okay, yeah, I couldn't find it in any of the documents, but if it's ongoing, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
No problem. And Andy, I have a question, which I think I know the answer to, but for the board's edification, please correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks to me from looking over the approved budget as compared to the forecasted full year for the current year, that the reason that we are going to lose 4 million less than we projected is principally because of larger sales. I understand we have more expenses because when we have more sales, we have more expenses. But is that correct, that the principal reason is greater sales than we had budgeted?
Yes, but we did have higher sales than we projected. However, not to the extent that contributed to a $17 million increase. Some of that, the difference between the 232.3 that we're forecasting versus the 215.7 that we budgeted was because we had budgeted for a significant hit from the PCIA in the October, November, December timeframe, and that didn't happen. In fact, the PCIA increase didn't start until January, and instead of hitting all in a 3-month period, it was being amortized over a 3-year period. So a very small impact from PCIA versus the budgeted level.
Okay, great, thank you.
And the other, you're right, the costs are higher. but the costs are higher mostly in the cost of electricity.
Right.
Those are by roughly $17 million higher. $13 million of that overage was just in the first quarter, the July, August, September quarter last year when the fires and the smoke happened. That was contributing to it. A small amount was related to more volume, but that was partially offset by lower costs than we expected for energy. So, but the largest impact was the really hopefully with climate change isn't as bad as it was in the first quarter of last year, or not as impactful, but last year, July, August, September quarter was very impactful and negatively impacted our budget.
Okay. Mark, go ahead.
Thank you. So yesterday, Clean Coalition did a really, really good webinar on local clean energy generation or remote, who wins the battle was the name of it. And I sent a copy to Jan. The thing is, they're saying that we're paying 3 cents per kilowatt hour for transmission from remote, and that the actual cost of electricity is probably 3 cents. So, you're paying 6 cents instead of 3, paying 100% extra. And so that's something to think about in terms of working up a strategy to meet the commit requirements from the CPUC. And I think that especially if you're looking out 2 years, that you could be looking at low-cost storage and low-cost solar thin film, which you could take advantage of that to do it in distributed solar within the service area, and that would give probably a far lower cost, especially if you're doing it by subsidizing, by partially helping people do it on their own, things like that, like making, campaigning for it, making it attractive. That might be a less expensive way to actually lock in capacity. I don't know whether you get credited for it, but something to be thinking about.
Okay.
That's it.
Is there any other question for Andy at this point? I don't see any other hands up, so go ahead, Andy.
Okay, the next set of slides, I'm gonna just scroll through, and unless there are desire for me to stop and explain them. I provided them in they were posted and provided to the board as part of that. The total revenues are expected to be down by 4.3%. I mentioned that PG&E rates are lower than last year and the PCIA rate is higher. The cost of electricity is expected to be slightly higher. That's with 4.3% more load, higher energy prices, but a few areas are expected to be lower than last year. And again, I'll be happy to talk about details if there are questions from the board. We provided these next set of slides didn't change from last time, so I'm not proposing that we spend any time on it. And I will skip to, unless there are questions, I will skip to the assumptions for the next 5-year plan. And I'll be happy to go back if anybody has any questions, but they're the same set of slides that were in last month's budget. PG&E generation rates over the next 5 years, we're assuming that a year and a half out that they decrease by 6.5%, which is negative for our revenues because we're tied to PG&E's rates. So when PG&E rates go down, our revenues go down, and then a slight decrease and increase over the next 4 years or 3 years after that. BCIA is expected to improve some fairly significant amounts. In January 1, 2023, a decrease of 4.5%, and then a decrease of 16%, and a decrease of 23%. Those are all compounded. If those come to pass, those would have a very significant impact, positive impact on our financials. and you'll see that in the coming next slide. The FY 21-22, I mentioned load is up by 4.3%. In the following year, we've assumed a load increase of 4.8%, and load is the amount of electricity that our customers use. And then we've assumed annual increases of a small amount of 1% in each of the years after that. And then based upon third-party forecasts and we subscribe to a couple of third-party forecasts for long-term energy price forecasts. I'd mentioned that the proposed budget assumed an increase of 11% in the cost of energy, and then a steady level of increases over the next 4 years after that. So in other words, we expect higher costs over the next few years as that will impact our budget as well. The result of all those is this slide. This just adds the last 4 columns. The column with the big red arrow at the top is the current proposed budget, which is a change in that position of $18 million, $18.7 million. In the following year, 22-23, our current projection based upon all of these assumptions is that we would lose another $18 million. And then the following year after that is to lose $10 million. Most of those increases or reductions and losses are a result of the 3-year amortization of the impact of that significant PCIA change that was implemented in January of this year. So it has an impact of half of the current year, all of the next 2 years, and starts to improve in the 2023-24 year period. And then based upon an projected improvement in the PCIA in 24-25 and 25-26, we go back to levels that we saw 2 years ago, where we have a positive change in that position of 10 million and 26 million. As I've mentioned before, there's 100, maybe 1,000 assumptions that go into all this. We control very little of these. We don't control energy prices. We don't control PG&E's energy rates. We don't control PCIA, but based upon all of these assumptions, this is our best guess. We're not asking for approval for the 4 years after the current budget. But if all this played out, you can see at the bottom that the days cash on hand would still stay above 200 over the 5-year period, and still well above our policy of 180 days, although certainly starting to approach it. And as I've mentioned in prior meetings, as we move forward, we would, sorry, I got a little distracted. As we move forward, we would monitor how close we are and how well we're doing against this, and we would make adjustments if necessary. And there's really only 2 big places that we could make adjustments. We would have a discussion about programs, new programs going forward that have an impact of 11, 12, and $15 million over the last 3 years of this. And the only other thing that we potentially control is the revenue side, which would be the discount relative to PG&E. But this budget, if everything plays out as we hope, is based upon maintaining our 5% discount from PG&E's rates based upon projected PG&E rates. As I mentioned, the operating expenses, the request for approval is $241,811,865 of operating expenses, and that's the proposed resolution to approve the fiscal year 21-22 budget, to approve total operating expenses not to exceed that level. And that's the extent of my presentation.
Okay, great. I've got a question from Pradeep.
Thank you, Rick. First, I'd like to mention point out that this budget cycle is one of the toughest one I have seen in terms of the uncertainties and things going backward and forward. So kudos to Andy and the tough job of pulling it all together in one place. Recently, I read a staff report in which it was mentioned that PUC is considering or recommending doubling the size of RA requirements, resource adequacy requirements. If that does go through, I think it will have some impact on our cost of energy. Andy, have you looked at that?
We have not looked at it, but you're right. It would have an impact on our cost to provide RA expenses. Let me just go there. The current budget, next year's budget for resource adequacy is $32 million. It's less than our current year, as our RA requirements have decreased. And I can't off the top of my head tell you how much that might be. My guess is it's probably in the $10 to $15 million range, because it wouldn't just double from the current $31 million, because our RA needs will start to go down as our PPAs, as we sign more PPAs that are expected to come to the board over the next couple of months, and therefore the expectation for RA expenses will diminish over the next 3 or 4 years. But if the requirement does double, that will definitely put some pressure on our expenses for sure.
Yeah, and given the optimistic possible scenarios that you mentioned regarding PCIA and PG&E energy cost, that might not be as big a shock as it could be. Thank you. I'll be watching on that. Thank you very much.
Is there any other question from anyone on the board? I don't see anyone with a hand up. Okay, I'll take public comment on this. I've got a public comment from Mark.
Thank you. Best way to predict the future is to make it happen. And after the 22-23 year, where you have 1% growth in load, I believe what's going to happen is the opposite, that's going to be skyrocketing from the base of the 22-23. And the reason is that the electric cars will be out in high volume. They'll be accepted by then. The president has offered to put many billions of dollars into charging systems. And I've been campaigning for a few years now to say we should put enough charging up to cover both the building and all the vehicles associated with it. If we do that, and if you start using the NREL data, that there's an NREL report that just came out, which could probably be used to say, okay, this is what's going to happen, or not necessarily the report, but the underlying data analysis. This is what's going to happen if we have these sales. Then these people out here that are essentially providing the solar and the storage to make sure that gets managed. They're providing what we would otherwise need to acquire. That's what I'm trying to say. That you have an opportunity, if you plan for it ahead and make sure that they will allow you to do what you want to do because you've already made your case, then it may be very possible to have a greatly expanding load, but also a greatly expanding supply of local distribution without any 3 cent per kilowatt hour charges to bring it in from the other end of the state. So that's some of the dynamics you could play with to get in an even better position.
Okay, thanks, Mark. I don't see any other comment. Okay, without any comment, this is an action item. We need to approve the budget. Can I get a motion to approve the budget as presented?
Motion to approve. This is Donna.
Okay.
Second.
Second by Rick Benia. Could we please have a roll call, Leslie?
Yes. County of San Mateo.
Yes.
County of San Mateo.
Yes.
Town of Atherton.
Yes.
City of Belmont.
Yes.
City of Brisbane.
Yes.
City of Burlingame.
Yes.
Town of Colma.
Yes.
Okay. City of Daly City. City of East Palo Alto.
Yes.
City of Foster City. City of Half Moon Bay.
Yes.
Town of Hillsborough.
Yes, with thanks to Andy for a great presentation.
City of Los Banos.
Yes.
City of Menlo Park.
Yes.
City of Millbrae.
Yes.
City of Pacifica.
Yes.
Town of Portola Valley.
Yes.
City of Redwood City.
Yes.
City of San Bruno.
Yes.
City of San Carlos. City of San Mateo.
Yes.
City of South San Francisco.
Yes.
Town of Woodside.
Yes.
And the motion passes. I'm sorry, could I know who's here for Town of Colma?
Yes, Ray Gonzalez.
Thank you.
All right. The next item on the agenda is to go over the EV managed charging pilot. This is an action item, and I assume Raphael is presenting.
Directors, this will be from myself, Philip Gobernick from the.
Oh, okay, Philip, great.
Great, thank you, and good evening, directors. I'm talking about our managed charging pilot, which is I think a very exciting and interesting way that we will be looking to do active charge management with our residential customers in support of our renewable energy goals. Okay, next slide, please. All right, so why are we pursuing charge management? Well, really, the ultimate goal here is in support of our goal to provide 100% renewable energy on an hourly, 24/7 hourly basis by better aligning charging demand and renewable energy supply. So the focus of our efforts is on moving charging that occurs during on-peak, particularly during a few hours in the evening ramp-up, to off-peak times in support of that goal. We're looking at doing charge management also that's more active. So it's actually controlling vehicle charging, which is a significant step beyond just what price signals are being providing to customers in time of use rates. And then critically, this is a system that will grow over time as EV adoption potentially ramps up pretty significantly. And that will help us to avoid things like a timer peak where thousands of vehicles set their clocks to start charging at midnight, and then we see another big spike in the middle of the night. So a system like this will help us smooth that out as well. Next slide, please. Oh, one more back. There we go. So the technical mechanism for the managed charging pilot that we've been pursuing uses vehicle telematics. So the controls that are on a vehicle that connect through cell signals connecting essentially vehicles to the cloud. And the reason we're doing this is because that it's really a low barrier out of the box solution with no hardware. A significant number of residential charging occurs on either level 1, which doesn't really have internet capabilities, especially if you're plugging into a wall, or non-internet connected level 2. So that's why we're looking to go through the car, because it allows us to scale to a much wider percentage of on-road vehicles. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the focus of our managed charging efforts has been on residential charging, which is estimated to be about 26,000 personally owned electric vehicles in San Mateo County right now. And this is a multi-phase pilot project. So the first phase was early last year. It actually started right before shelter in place. That was a technical proof of concept with a company called Flex Charging. We wanted to see if the system worked and if it was something that proved that it had potential. And we thought that was a successful proof of concept and that there was, we should keep continuing down this path of using vehicle telematics for charge management. And so now we're coming to you with phase 2 of this pilot, which is an expanded pilot. We'll be using this year to further development and launch it in 2022. And we have a couple of key objectives that I'll be talking more in detail about, but that's to bring on an additional management system as we do this, and then also test incentives. And there's I think an exciting collaboration with UC Davis that I'll be talking about. And once these are validated in phase 2, we learn more about how this works and how customers respond to a program like this. The idea would be to take those lessons and scale to a program in 2023. Next slide, please. So here's a quick recap of that phase 1 proof of concept test. Again, this was with a small startup called Flex Charging. This was a small kind of friends and family pilot where we worked with about a dozen folks to do charge management. But so these assumptions should be taken with a grain of salt because it was with a small group, but still had very interesting early findings, and that we were able to reduce the amount of on-peak charging that occurs by half. And then also we were able to learn more about how our residents are actually charging and what charging behavior is in San Mateo County, including that about half, about 43% of the small group were charging on level 1 through residential charging, which further validates that something like telematics versus internet connecting charging stations has the potential to scale to include more people in a full program. Next slide, please. So part of what we're doing in this next phase is a collaboration with UC Davis. It's their energy and economics program, which really specializes in behavior around energy and how consumers are understanding and interacting with different types of energy and different rates and things like that. And so I've been collaborating with them for a few months now on what this pilot will look like and how we should be thinking about testing different incentive options with our customers. And the budget does include a research grant for UC Davis. So the academic team would be providing experimental design guidance, and as we finalize what that experiment will look like, analysis and evaluation, and post-experiment journal publication, because they're very excited about learning more about how customers respond to managed charging and want to contribute to the breadth of academic knowledge when it comes to this topic. Next slide, please. Here are some of the questions that we're looking to ask in this experimental component with UC Davis. Primarily is how do customers respond when given the option of voluntarily opting into a managed charging program? So looking at things like enrollment rate, retention, customer concern, is an incentive needed? And what are the results of various types of incentives? And then of course, how much load shift can really be achieved? Is telematics a cost-effective way of reducing on-peak charging? And then how much flexibility exists within drivers? Can we tinker around with their charge levels to get further on-peak reductions? Next slide, please. So this next phase is a pretty significant ramp up. We're looking at between 1,500 and 2,000 residential customers that will be further kind of locked in as we finalize the experimental components. We're looking at between a 9 to 12 month experiment. So this would really be most of 2022, the timeframe of this experiment. And then looking at, again, how customers respond to incentives to participate in active charge management, including no incentive, just the benefit of being in a free program that PCE is offering to help manage their charging, a flat rebate like a bill credit, or what I'm calling a time of use subsidy, where we would isolate the charging that occurs off peak from the vehicle only and then give a bill credit. So it's more of a performance incentive. The more off peak you charge, the more of a bill credit you would get. Next slide, please. So here is the timeline. So we are seeking board approval to proceed tonight. And then for the rest of 2021, the next several months, we'd be finalizing the design development with UC Davis, enacting a contract with them, and then returning to your board when that is for approval when that is final. Releasing an RFP for the actual telematics managed charging system, and then of course working with them during onboarding and getting them set up. And then customer recruitment would likely take a few months, especially for the numbers that we're talking about. That would likely start at the very end of the year. And then we would be launching sometime in Q1 of 2022. And then again, this would be a 9 to 12 month experiment with our customers, followed by analysis and evaluation. And of course, the big caveat here is that post-COVID travel patterns are returning by the end of the year, because we really do need to have a accurate baseline when looking at charging behavior. Next slide. So here is the line item budget. It includes a line item for incentives, that telematics management platform, the research grant with UC Davis, and a small contingency budget, totaling to $550,000 over the next 2 fiscal years. And a quick note is that the UCD team has been applying for and receiving some grant funding. They've already obtained over $60,000 in grant funds, with I believe 1 pending grant application out at this time, which would allow us to to further fund the program and reduce PCE costs. And next slide, please. I believe that's the wrap up. So the program, again, is our EV managed charging. It's the second phase of a multi-phase pilot. The request for you tonight is for board approval of the proposed EV managed charging phase 2 project. And the amount is up to $550,000 over the next 2 fiscal years. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Rick, you're on mute.
You're right. Sorry about that. Are there any questions or comments from anyone on the board? Okay, I don't see any. So I will take public comment. I have a comment from Mark Roost.
Thank you. There's a complement to the kind of charging management you're talking about, which is the cyber switching rotating, where they basically have 4 ports on a single terminal, on a single switch, and they rotate it. And they're at chrentals.com or cyberswitching.com. You're nodding, so I guess you already know who they are. Okay, great. Yeah, that's it basically knocks out the charging the peak. I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Is there any other?
Apologies.
Go ahead, Philip. Did you want to respond?
I was going to say, yes, we're familiar with them. It's an example of a technology called automated load management or load balancing. And those types of technologies we are planning on using very extensively, currently using very extensively in our EV Ready program as we deploy charging stations at scale, particularly at workplaces and multifamily, to help add more ports and especially in energy constrained environments. And cyber switching is one that we looked at as well. Big fan of those types of technologies.
Okay. I don't, if anyone has a question or a comment, now's a good time to raise your hand. I don't see that. This is an action item, so I need a motion to approve.
Move to approve by Mates.
And who is that from?
Mates, Julia.
Okay, Julia Mates, great. Can I get a second?
Second.
I don't know who that was from.
Christine Krolik, Hillsborough.
Okay, Christine, great. Leslie, can we do a roll call, please?
Yes. County of San Mateo.
Yes.
County of San Mateo, Town of Atherton,
Yes.
and Carol, I see you. County of San Mateo?
Yes.
Okay. City of Belmont,
Yes.
City of Brisbane,
Yes.
City of Burlingame,
Yes.
Town of Colma,
Yes.
City of Daly City, City of East Palo Alto,
Yes.
City of Foster City, City of Half Moon Bay,
Yes.
Town of Hillsborough,
Yes.
City of Los Banos,
Yes.
City of Menlo Park,
Yes.
City of Millbrae,
Yes.
City of Pacifica,
Yes.
Town of Portola Valley,
Yes.
City of Redwood City,
Yes.
City of San Bruno,
Yes.
City of San Carlos, City of San Mateo,
Yes.
City of South San Francisco,
Yes.
Town of Woodside.
Yes.
And the motion passes.
Okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda is to go over the Disadvantaged Community Solar Program. Is that Dave that's going to?
Yeah, this is Dave Freibush. I am also on Raphael's team for those of you who I haven't interacted with yet. And I wanted to give you an update on the DAC GT, which stands for Disadvantaged Communities Green Tariff, and the DAC CSGT programs, which the CSGT stands for Community Solar Green Tariff. These are both PUC programs that we are engaging with, and I wanted to give you, we wanted to give you an update on these programs, which are starting to move forward. So can we move, I think 2 slides forward? There we go. I'll give you an overview. I'll talk about our activity to date, the program, how it impacts us. There are some specific complexities involving Los Banos and customers there. So Leslie will talk about that. And we'll also talk about customer enrollment and then next steps for us. Next slide, please. So there's 2 parts of this program. They both they're very similar. They're both designed to get solar resources deployed in designated DACs. In our case, they need to be in PG&E territory. And functionally, the 2 main differences between the programs are they have to be in DACs in either, if they're for solar resources that are deployed for either program. For the GT portion, they can be in a DAC, any DAC in PG&E territory. And for the community solar, it needs to be in San Mateo County specifically, and it needs to be sited within 5 miles of participating customers and include a community sponsor that's an organization, a nonprofit organization that would be engaged to help get community members to participate in the program. Next slide, please. So again, the objective is to get renewable energy deployed in these DACs. It will give participating customers a 20% discount on their bill. That's on the entire bill, both Peninsula Clean Energy and PG&E's portion. And ratepayer funding will reimburse us for that. It's actually a program that's in place already. It was originally passed as part of AB 327 in 2013. Now in 2018, the CCAs asked the PUC to be able to participate ourselves and to receive an allocation of program capacity to participate, and that did happen in 2018. I'll get into the details as we go along here. Next slide, please. So we have in San Mateo County, we have 3 DACs. And in Los Banos, there is, Los Banos will also, a large part of the Los Banos territory will also qualifies as a DAC. There's a Cal EnviroScreen is the entity that publishes the DAC. And so it's not anything we have any control over. We have the 3 in San Mateo County are in South San Francisco and San Bruno, parts of San Bruno, a small geographic area in Redwood City, and East Palo Alto. So just one takeaway from this is that geographically, there's a lot more potential in Los Banos, but as I've discussed, there also are requirements for part of this, for the CS portion, that residents need to be within 5 miles. And our allocation is based on San Mateo County, since Los Banos was not part of our territory when this decision came through. Next slide, please. So I mentioned this Cal EnviroScreen is the entity that designates the DACs, and our allocation is based on San Mateo County. We estimate that there are about 3,750 eligible customers. Leslie will talk in a little more detail around how we're qualifying customers for this number. We will essentially be able to serve around 600 through the GT program and an additional 200 through the CS program. This is all, there's a rather complex, perhaps even convoluted methodology through which customers are allocated. So we have a 1.24 megawatt allocation for the GT portion and a 0.41 megawatt allocation for our CS portion. The number of customers we can enroll is based on the expected load of the customers over a year compared to the expected generation of the resource over a year. So you can think of it as every customer gets a share of the resource effectively, and we can enroll as many customers as we can get to until we get to the total generation for the year. So that's how we enroll customers, but their bill discount is totally decoupled from what actually happens with the solar. They just get 20% discount that continues, and it has really, there's not really any functional true up between their discount and what the solar outputs. So we're authorized to procure solar, and we have to procure new solar for these resources. It must be in front of the meter solar, and it cannot have storage. But until we get our own resources procured, we can utilize an interim resource, and an interim resource has to meet all the qualifications for us in our procurement. But it turns out that there are some resources that do qualify, and Marin Clean Energy has 2 solar projects that are, one's in Kern County, and I am blanking on where the other one is, but they are both in DACs, and they do have a capacity to, that they could essentially allocate to us, and we would purchase that from them and then get reimbursed by the Utility Commission for the energy coming from those systems. So we could conceivably start enrolling customers before we have our own resource procured, and that's what we intend to do. Next slide, please. So just brief update on our overall activity timeline. So in this past December, we submitted our implementation plan and budget forecasts to the PUC. That's just part of the process for moving forward with this. On April 15th, that was approved. We have submitted our documents for the solicitation for the solar resources we'll procure already. The PUC has 2 months to approve that. Our submission was on June 15th. And then once they approve the resource, we would issue the solicitation to procure the resources. So that would likely happen August, September. As I mentioned, we are in the process. We're in advanced discussions with MCE. We have a contract that's pretty close to being agreed on by both parties for that resource, which could last us until we have our resource procured. And then we're looking at a Q4 2021 launch using that interim resource. We won't be able to launch the CS portion, the San Mateo County specific portion, until those resources are in place, because the resources have to be in one of those 3 decks. And our expectation at this point is it'll likely be around 2023 before those resources that we procure would come online. And again, we can use the interim resource until then. Next slide, please. Sorry, is there, if there's, it sounds like there might be a question. Maybe I was just hearing something. I'm going to turn it over to Leslie, who will discuss some of the customer enrollment issues with Los Banos. Just a brief procurement overview on this. Again, PG&E, this program currently exists, and there are customers in Los Banos that are currently participating in this program as PG&E customers. So the question is, what happens when they become our customers? So with that, I'll turn it over to Leslie.
Yes. So, so as Dave indicated, this is already an active program for the IOUs. And currently, as of a check-in that we had with PG&E on this very recently, there were 397 Los Banos customers that were currently enrolled in the PG&E's version of the DAC GT program. So those customers are already, they were automatically enrolled into PG&E's program. They're already receiving the benefits of the 20% discount. The challenge, that, we're sort of facing is that we will be enrolling Los Banos into our service, as everyone knows, in April of 2022. And the current allocation that we have from the CPUC does not cover us being able to provide this program. We don't have enough allocation in the allocation that we have from the CPUC to offer this program to Los Banos customers as well as San Mateo County customers. So we are in active conversation, with some of the commissioners from the CPUC and their staff about, some solutions or proposed solutions to this issue. We don't have a solution yet. We hope to have one before we reach the enrollment period. But, if we don't, then we're sort of faced with a couple of decision points. One, where we as PCE do not actively enroll this batch of customers into our service because we don't. If we did that, we would essentially be kicking them off the discount from PG&E, and we don't have the ability to offer the equivalent to them. So we could leave them as PG&E customers, or, and look at what we can, look at maybe we can do a retro enrollment later, or, we decide we're just going to roll everyone in and, look for a solution down the line where we would enroll them into our service and kick them off of the PG&E program. We would look to try to provide a solution as soon as possible. So we don't have to make any of those decisions right now. Those are just sort of a preview of something we need to think about, going forward.
Okay. I have a question.
The next slide. You have a question about this? Yeah, so you have a question about this specific issue.
I have a question from Ann Schneider, I think, on the program.
I can wait till the end.
Okay.
No problem.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead, Leslie.
It looks like Tom maybe has a question.
Oh, Tom, do you want to ask your question?
Tom, do you have a question about Los Banos?
Yeah. Yes, thank you. I would very much like to be involved as much as I can. And if we need support, any of the state offices, or I don't know whether state legislators would have any influence or whatnot, but I definitely wouldn't want to see our citizens all of a sudden say, oh no, we're no longer getting our 20% discount from PG&E because we went over to this other deal. So this other provider.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's definitely
we
our
definitely
biggest concern, Tom. And so, the worst case, we're definitely leaning towards the staff that we would just not enroll the customers, and leave them as PG&E customers, which, would be better for them for their immediate bill considerations. Unfortunately, then they wouldn't be PCE customers, but
Right.
You know, those are the things that we have to think about. And we definitely don't want to negatively impact anyone's bill immediately, because that would have a lot of other potential unintended, you know, consequences.
Yes, indeed, it would.
Okay.
And
go to the next slide.
Now, is that that rule regarding what we can offer to Los Banos? Is that a state set rule, or is that something that just within our own charter, or what?
This has to do, so this program is a program that's authorized by the California Public Utilities Commission. So, and the allocations are, it comes from the CPUC. And so when we went to the CPUC back in 2018 as a collective group of CCAs to say, hey, we would like to get part of this allocation that you're going to be handing out for this, you know, statewide program for our customers as well. And so they said, fine. So they gave us what they determined was a proportional allocation for our customer base, which in 2018 was just San Mateo County. So that's why our allocation does not cover, or is not large enough to provide both for San Mateo County and for Los Banos through this one particular program that's authorized by the CPUC.
Very good. Yeah, so 397 customers. There are about 11,000 houses in Los Banos, just to give you an idea of the percentage of where that sits. Okay, thanks. We'll be talking on this quite a bit for a while. We'll get a solution though.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
No problem. Go ahead, Leslie.
You can go to the next slide. Yeah. And so for the enrollment for San Mateo, County of San Mateo, what we're looking at is there's a variety of ways we can come up with our qualifying list. There are some set parameters as part of the program. They do need to live in the qualifying DACs, which are, you know, based on the census tract. They do need to be either enrolled or eligible to enroll in the CARE or FARA assistance programs. But beyond that, you know, we have some flexibility on how we determine who is eligible, you know, for enrollment and how we want to approach this. One of the avenues that we're pursuing right now is with one of our community partners that we've had an ongoing outreach grant in relationship with El Concilio, who we're talking to about working with them to help identify, have them help us identify who are the most sort of vulnerable folks. Because if you remember from Dave's initial presentation, you know, just based on the baseline qualifications, we're coming up with about 3,700 qualifying customers or potentially qualifying customers in our service territory. And we only have allocation to serve, you know, around 600 of them with this program. So we need to make some decisions about how we allocate that enrollment. So we're talking with El Concilio, and then another path that we're looking at either to supplement, you know, the El Concilio, you know, list, or, you know, however we need to fill it up, is looking at customers that are enrolled in AMP, Arrears Management Plan, which is a newer program that was launched just over the last few months to help customers who are most in danger of disconnection, which is another priority for this program, is to help address customers that, you know, are in danger of disconnection, don't have access to, wouldn't necessarily have access to the benefits of solar or green energy otherwise. And so to give them this extra discount on their bill could help them be successful in the arrears management plan. So that's what we're looking through right now, is how to identify this eligible list of customers and move forward with the program. And then once we identify the customers, we will automatically enroll them. We're not going to make them go through any extra hurdles or steps to qualify. We're going to sort of pre-qualify everyone and then just enroll them in the program.
Next slide. And I think we have one more. So just to sum up, so again, we have submitted our documents to the PUC for approval for the solicitation for new solar resources. This is just what we're required to do as part of this process. We are planning to contract with Marin Clean Energy for their solar resource to be an interim resource so we can start enrolling customers. This issue with Calpine and enabling the billing aspects so that the discount can be provided have to be sorted out. We are looking at a Q4 start date. Calpine is a external dependency for us, so we're dependent on them to get this up and running, but this is what we're expecting, and we're in we're in close contact with them and other CCAs on making sure all the enabling aspects are in place. Leslie has discussed the work that's gone into identifying and enrolling customers, and we've discussed the Los Banos customer issue. So that's about it. It's a discussion, there's no action. That's what we've got.
Great, okay. Thank you, Dave. I've got a couple questions or comments from members of the board. First, Ann Schneider.
Thank you, Chair. Would you mind, Mr. Freebush, going back to the slide that shows the map of the peninsula? Thank you. I think this is a great program. I fully support it, but how these data sets are created, I think there's potential problems. If you were to expand that out and look at the tail of San Bruno, that particular neighborhood abuts and shares a Millbrae neighborhood. Now, just earlier today, I was talking to my city manager saying, I think we have problems in the census tracts because we share a school. It's a Millbrae school. The San Bruno kids go to it, but we can't get safe routes to school because the school is in Millbrae and the census tract is, quote, too rich. And yet the people are all in the same socioeconomic bracket in that area. And I got onto Cal Enviro Screen, but it's going to take me some playing around before I can really understand that. I just want to point this out. I know you don't have enough money to cover everyone, but there could be a parent, a household living right next to each other. One's in Millbrae, one's in San Bruno. They are in the same socioeconomic situation. They could both be in arrears for their utility bills. One will qualify, one will not. So, and the problem is because we have a city border right there, and yet it's the same neighborhood. And I just am having, and on top of it, that particular neighborhood, both San Bruno and Millbrae, as the airport does its next set of expansions, are going to be hit with even more environmental pollutants. So I just wanted you to think about that. I know we don't have enough money, but if there ever comes a point when there's enough money, these drawn DACs based on census data that don't really reflect the true situation on the ground is problematic. Did I explain that correctly?
Yeah, and maybe through the chair, if I might comment on this. Director Schneider, you're 100% correct. The Cal Enviro Screen metric, which is a metric produced by Cal EPA, is a long-standing census tract-based air quality metric that has over time become used by many agencies for many programs, including this program. It's an incredibly crude tool. And in our engagement at the PUC, we have begun commenting on the limitations of this as a metric. We've done so in recent filings around the transportation electrification framework. And unfortunately, we have no control over the use of this for this statewide program, but we're acutely aware of its substantial deficiencies and hope that it will be corrected at some point in the future.
As long as it's on your radar. Again, we can't get safe routes to this school because they use Millbrae's numbers and they don't combine San Bruno's, where they would qualify if they combined the two.
Yeah.
For the neighborhood. But thank you for that. And I think it's a great program and there's not enough money to go around, but sometimes it can just be really frustrating when you're trying to help your own folks.
Absolutely. There will be an update to Cal Enviro Screen. We anticipate some expansion of some of the census tracts. We're still waiting for the details on that. And for our own programs, we do not use census tract-based evaluation of low and underserved, so that we ensure that we can reach the entire community.
Terrific.
Okay,
Thank you.
Michael Smith.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I'd like to start off by saying I definitely second what Councilmember Schneider just mentioned. And I actually would kind of take it a step further with regard to Redwood City. Redwood City obviously has the city that is drawn out, and actually there are areas within the city that I believe could use the same type of programmatic attention that the area that has particularly been highlighted can do. So it's not just a cross-border, across-city issue, it's also an internal city issue. So I would, also, again, just second the use of a scalpel in determining the geographic areas that are appropriate for this program. I just have a few questions, clarifying questions for you, if you don't mind. So I'd just like to get a sense, so I think it was, I'm forgetting who mentioned this particular component of the process, but there was the care/car assistance roles that would be used to create the participation, the universe of participation, let's call it. I'm kind of curious, like if you could, because I'm just not familiar with those particular assistance roles, how does one apply? Would you describe the application process as onerous, and are there assistance vehicles that would allow for people to execute these applications in an effective way?
Yeah, I can take the question about care and fair enrollment. So those are programs that are administered by PG&E. They are essentially self-certified programs, self-certification programs. They're very easy to complete. They do have, the programs are subject to, percentage of audit. So a handful of the customers do get sort of audited by PG&E on an annual basis to be able to, actually prove that they meet the income qualification. So there's a set of income qualifications where your household, based on the number of people in your household, if you are earning, below a certain level, then you, are eligible for these additional discounts on your utility bills. As far as assistance, there are a lot of other public agencies or other agencies out there that do assist customers. El Concilio is one that actually is operating in San Mateo County. That's one of the things that they do. They are a partner, a community-based organization partner of PG&E to help their clientele fill out these applications. Yeah, the threshold to actually apply is pretty low. But you are subject to potentially, an audit from the program if you sort of get pulled to be able to justify what you say that you're qualified.
Yeah, that's really interesting to me. How does that audit program impact like the interest of participants?
How does the audit work? So if you get PG&E will reach out, they will reach out to the customer like through a letter.
About the process. I'm just curious about how does that impact whether participants choose to enroll in it or not? Is it kind of like,
I don't, yeah, potentially, people are sort of scared off,
right.
If you're undocumented, which is one of the reasons why, it's one of the conversations we've had with El Concilio. Because, they work with a lot of undocumented folks in our community. So if one of the sort of, the process of potentially maybe having an audit is scary to them, right? So that's what keeps some of those folks from signing up for some of those programs. But if part of what we can do is say, hey, in addition to this other discount, this discount you get just from signing this program, you could actually get a more discount, from us, and we'll put you on this list, for this other program, to get even a bigger discount for your household. That's one of the things that we're talking about with El Concilio could help them get more people enrolled into the assistance programs that they desperately need, but maybe have been avoiding signing up for because they're, afraid to get themselves on a list of some sort.
Got it. Thank you. One more question. So we have a 3,700, I believe, apportionment of households across the county. So 600 will get selected, 2,900 will not. What happens to those 2,900 households' bills when dealing with kind of PCE specifically?
Well, they're still enrolled in Care and Fair, so they're still getting those discounts. They just wouldn't get to this extra discount program. But this would be an ongoing program, so that if someone, moves or the account closes of a customer that's currently enrolled, we will create sort of an internal wait list per se of customers that could be the next one to be enrolled if a spot opens up in the program.
So I just want to kind of ask very directly, what does a bill for a program participant look like who did not get selected versus someone who signed up for PG&E, in the city of Los Banos? Do you have like a rule of thumb or a concrete thought about how do you compare those two?
So their bill wouldn't change from what it currently is, right? If you get
comparison of someone who signed up with PCE versus PG&E in that income bracket.
So if you're a PCE customer, our rates, our generation rates are set at just under 5% below PG&E. So you're already getting a little bit of savings by being a PG&E customer. If you're on Care or Fair, you're getting an additional just overall discount on your utility bill. If you get put into this DAC GT program, you're going to get a 20% off whatever's left over at that point of your electric charges. It's an additional 20% on the total electric portion of your bill, the PG&E part and the PCE part.
Got it. Okay. I appreciate the questions. It helps to clarify a lot. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah.
Thank you, Michael. Donna.
Thanks, Rick. So yeah, I do also want to just kind of echo Ann and Michael's comments. I know most people think of Burlingame as being a wealthy city, but we're 54% of our people are renters, and we have Title I schools in our town. And I was just looking at the map. I happen to live in a Title I school neighborhood, so I'm really sensitive to the families and people. When we did our CARES program, 13 or 1,400 people in our town have CARES and FAIRS qualifications. So it is really hard to sit and watch these programs kind of go continuously. It's great that they're going into the certain communities, but I do think there are other pockets of people that are kind of hidden in some of our towns who could really benefit from some of these programs. So the more we can kind of keep them, open and available to all of our lower income residents, and I know we don't often have a say in that because we're dealing with state mandates and guidelines, but there is a hidden group of people throughout our county in some of our more wealthy cities, if you will, who could really benefit from some of this work and these programs. So thanks so much.
Betsy.
Thank you. Just to add to the conversation, we actually have a community within Menlo Park, which has its own census district, 6117, which apparently is not on the DAC list, but definitely is one of our underserved communities that would also benefit our Bellhaven neighborhood. And it does have its own census tract.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or suggestions? Any public comment? I don't see any. This is not an action item. So we'll go on to the next item, which is also a discussion item. This is an update on the e-bikes program.
Rick, it looks like Carlos has his hand up.
Oh, missed you, Carlos. Sorry. Thank you, Leslie.
Yeah, sorry, I just got in there at the end. So, Leslie, I just had a question about the arrearage management plan. I hope you guys can hear me. So this customer enrollment plan is a blend between saying community organizations, identifying folks, and then folks who are in, is it PG&E's arrearage management plan?
PG&E is administering the program, but our arrears are part of it. So PG&E is the one who's enrolling the customer, but our arrears are included in the program.
So given the devastation that the pandemic has kind of wrought, particularly on lower income folks, I mean, a lot of us look at our 401ks and say, my God, look how well it's doing. And a bunch of folks who basically have nothing to fall back on have really been buffeted. And, you know, folks in the arrearage management plan, I mean, folks who indeed might be in the process of potentially getting, and I ran into somebody actually today at 6 o'clock who, when I was doing some COVID vaccination work, who said, yeah, I owe $1,000. I have no idea how I'm going to pay it. So on utility bills. So I would want to know if there's a possibility of prioritizing folks in the arrearage management plans, just because I think those folks indeed, if they're there, they're certainly, they've probably been buffeted by this economy that has not been kind to, you know, folks in the lower quintile, or for that matter, probably the lower half of the economy. So it's just a suggestion I had.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Leslie.
Yeah, no. So one of the things that Hortensia, who's the director of El Consillo, brought up to us when we talked to her, is that so the arrears management plan is fantastic, right? It really is a great program. If anyone has past due utility debt and you're concerned about that, you really should sign up for it. You can get up to $8,000 of your past due for utility debt totally forgiven. And the commitment is that you pay your current bill going forward for 12 months. The struggle that some of the folks that Hortensia deals with is that they actually are in a situation at this point where they cannot even sign up for the arrears management plan because they do not have a positive income stream,
or
they don't have an income stream to, they can't even do the 12 months, right? And so that's where we were working with her. It's like, who are these people? You know, could you help us identify, is there an even more vulnerable section of our community here that can't even sign up for AMP that could benefit from an additional 20% discount on their utility bill? And then maybe that'll help them be able to get into AMP, right? Because then now if they've got an additional 20% discount, maybe then they could sign up for AMP because then they can make those payments going forward. So that was sort of the segment of the population that we're trying to target with El Consillo. And then if we can't fill up the group with that list, then start going straight to the AMP list of people that are already enrolled in AMP.
Thanks for explaining the AMP program.
Sure.
And just one quick comment. I know all of us, well, certainly on the coast side, like to beat up on Callan virus screen, and I've been looking at it and thinking about it for at least the last 4 years that it's been around. But I think the one thing we have to consider is that Callan virus screen does pick up a lot of the disadvantaged communities in the Central Valley, right? Around Bakersfield, Los Baños. Those are communities that are truly, truly, truly hurting, that have, you know, average incomes of 27,000, 28,000. So I think we should think about refining Callan virus screen, but I do not want to refine Callan virus screen at the cost of those communities in the Central Valley, you know, around Bakersfield. Los Baños is probably one of those, right? And so I just think we have to keep that in mind when we think about legislative solutions to that, you know, somewhat, you know, gross filter that's being used by CARB. So it's just a, you know, from an equity perspective, I think we have to think about some of the more affected low-income communities in the state. Thanks. Thanks, Rick.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Thank you. I'm glad you got in there, Carlos. Okay, we're moving on to the e-bikes program.
Great, thank you, directors. I'll give a brief information update on our e-bikes for everyone program. So next slide, please. So as a quick overview, this was a program authorized by your board last year. that provides a rebate of up to $800 for up to 300 bikes for residents in our community. And this is only for low to moderate income customers. We don't use DAC for this program as well. We use a number of different qualifications such as proof of enrollment in free or reduced lunch school programs, CalFresh, CareFair discount, or other proof of income to qualify. So it's open to everyone in the community with qualifying incomes. And we also partnered with some bike shops locally to offer the rebate as a point of sale discount. Next slide, please. So a quick status update on the program. It launched at the very end of Bike to Work month, or Bike to Whatever month, I believe this year is what it was called. And the program sold out in 5 days. We received over 300 applications. By this point, we've now received 450 applications and the program is closed. Of those, almost 200 e-bikes at this point have already been purchased. One example here is Margaret, who tagged us on Instagram with her new folding e-bike that she bought through the program. And then customers indicated that running errands was the most common use, and 94% customer satisfaction thus far. Next slide, please. So applications, we did receive applications from all over the county. I've included the top 15 cities in which we received applications from, which largely trend with population. Next slide, please. And this was related to item 11 on the contract, on your agenda today, which increased the contract for Ride Panda, one of the bike shops, which is selling many of the bikes in the program. And we are evaluating and finalizing our request for additional funding that we will be returning to your board for consideration in the future. And that's it for me. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Thanks, Philip. Any questions on the e-bike program? I don't see any. Is there any public comment on the e-bike program?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
How come people on the coast, particularly Half Moon Bay, don't seem to be getting any bikes? Do you have any understanding?
We received several applications from Half Moon Bay. There was also some smaller towns that I didn't include in the top 15 because they received 3 or 4 applications. Moss Beach, Emerald Hills, Pescadero are all coming to mind. But we did receive several coastal cities getting a number of applications in, and also Pacifica as well, putting in a number of applications to the program. But we did, we did promote this through our bulletin, which goes out to all of our customers, and we also partnered with some outreach folks, some outreach partnerships we work with, including Silicon Valley Bike Coalition, and then affordable housing was another major channel that we promoted the program to.
Thanks.
Okay.
Through the chair. Sorry, this is Ann. When I read this, I can see the applications. How were the rebates given? Does it reflect? Is it a similar percentage as the cities?
That's correct. So we had a very high approval rate. From my recollection, I think about 90% of applications end up being approved, which I imagine is largely self-selective. So the actual funds reserved or applications reserved for folks would follow a very similar map to this.
Thank you. Maybe in the future, if you could include both those, that would be great.
Certainly, we'll do.
Okay, I think that we are up to board member reports. Does anyone have a report? Okay, and just to remind everyone, we're about to go into closed session, so I don't see any reports. Andy is going to walk us through how we're going to do the closed session over Ring Central.
Great. Let me walk you through the logistics that we'll go through. First, I will create a breakout room And I will add board members and David Silverman to that breakout room, all except Rick DeGolia. And if you are still haven't received an invite and you're still in the main meeting room and believe you should be included in the breakout room, once we do that, then please speak up. My suggestion, although is that we at that point that we have you get a bio break. So I've had an exchange with Rick and he's approved that. So you'll have a bio break for 5 minutes before we'll start. And then I will stop recording. I will make Rick the meeting host. And then that will allow Rick to join the breakout room at any time. And as the host, he can move back and forth at any time between the breakout room and the main room. I will stay on for a little while in case there are any issues. When the board is ready, and that can be in 5 minutes or 5 hours, if you like, Rick can assign Jan to the breakout room, and then she gets an invite and can join. And if the board decides to excuse her at any time, he can either excuse her, or I think she can actually elect to leave the breakout room. At the end of the closed session, all members will have an option to click on a button to either leave the breakout room or leave the meeting. As the host, Rick will have the ability to end the meeting anyway, but our expectation is that there's no decision to be made by the board at the closed session, and therefore council has advised us that there's then no real reason to have to go back to open session. So for members of the public, since the board is not expected to come back into open session, you're welcome to stay on, but you could be waiting a long time and the board may never come back anyway. Any questions and I'll do my best to select people, but I could miss. So any questions on that? Okay.
Just to let everybody know, the expectation is that we'll go into the breakout room and we'll talk about our review and a recommendation that the ad hoc committee had. All the members of the board can participate. I expect that at the end of that discussion, we'll invite Jen to join us. We may have some discussion after Jen joins us and she leaves the breakout room, but I don't expect that we'll be coming back to the meeting. Unless we are going to be making a decision tonight, which we don't expect to do, we can just end the meeting from the breakout room. We expect to to basically decide what we would like to have in the contract, and then council will prepare that contract for our review at the July board meeting.
So you'd like to reconvene at 8:35 after we've moved over?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm planning to follow the assigned people. Rick, I guess it's your call about whether the emeritus members should be invited or not. My understanding is that they have not in the past, but council has advised that
I think it's fine to invite them.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, the general rule on closed sessions is it's sort of a need to know situation. If the board feels that the emeritus members are necessary for the closed session, then they can be included. I don't believe historically they have been, but if that is the desire of the board, it would not violate the Brown Act.
Okay.
Okay, I'm doing my best. I'm going to list off your name and see what happens. Ann Schneider, Betsy Nash, Carlos Romero, Carol Groom, Christine Krolik, Colleen Mackin, sorry, Dave Pine, David Silberman, Donna Colson, Flor Nicholas, Harvey Rarback, Jeff Elfs, Julia Mates, J.W. Keener, Marty Medina, Michael A. Smith, Pradeep Gupta, Rick Bonilla, I'm not going to do Rick DeGolia yet, Tom Faria, and Mr. Big Stick. Sorry about that. Anybody that I missed?
Ray Gonzalez for the town of Colma.
Are you on a phone call?
Yes, yes, I am.
And what's your phone number? 4650.
Yeah,
Oh.
302 0226.
Yep, okay. All right, I'm opening that room. Okay, now I'm going to stop recording.